In this example, we have a picture of a function, and we are going to use rectangles to estimate the signed area. In this one, we have 4 rectangles that we want, and we are going to estimate the area between -2 and 6. This function goes negative, so it's asked for signed area, so things below the x-axis are going to be negative, and above the x-axis are going to be positive. First thing we need to do is figure out how wide each rectangle needs to be. So the width of each rectangle is given by delta x, and this is our little formula for delta x. B is the upper bound, A is the lower bound, and N is the number of rectangles. And that gives us a width of 2. So each rectangle needs to have a width of 2. I'm going to start by doing left rectangles, and then I'm going to do right rectangles, so you can see both of them. So when I'm saying left rectangles, what I mean is each rectangle with width of 2 is going to, the height of it is going to be determined by its leftmost side. So since the first rectangle is starting at -2, the leftmost side of that rectangle is going to be at -2. And so that's the point I'm going to use to figure out how tall the rectangle should be. So it should be -3 is where that rectangle should go to. And it should have a width of 2. And there's my rectangle, right? It's got an area of 6. And because it's signed area, it's going to be -6. The next rectangle is got like the leftmost point of the next rectangle is going to be at the origin. It's going to have a height of 0, right? That rectangle, that's right there. That's where the function is, what's the value of the function at 0. So this rectangle doesn't have any area. Next rectangle is going to start at 2. So the leftmost point in the next rectangle is 2, at 2. The value of the function at 2 is 2. So this is where this rectangle's height is going to be. It's going to have a width of 2. The last rectangle is going to have a height of 1. All right. So if I add up each of these areas, like -6 plus 0 plus 4 plus 2, I'm going to get 0. So the estimate of the signed area is 0. Now let's try right rectangles. If I'm doing right rectangles, if I was looking at just the very first rectangle on the left side, the rightmost point would be at 0. I can also do these starting from the right, which might be slightly easier. So if I look at the rightmost point of the rightmost rectangle, it is going to be at 6. And the value of my function at 6 is -2. So this rectangle goes down to -2 and has a width of 2. The next rectangle there too, and that one has a height of 1, because that's the rightmost point of that rectangle, is supposed to be at 4. Next rectangle, the rightmost point is at 2. So the value of the function at 2 is 2. And then the next one, the rightmost point is at 0. So it has 0. So then if I add up the area for these, I get 0 for the leftmost rectangle, then 4, then 2, then -4 because it goes below the axis. And I get that an estimate of the area is 2.